me to really wonderful people. And I'd like to say that it's been a humbling experience to get to know Larry. And I'm only sorry that my father really never had the opportunity, because I'm sure he would have had a lot to talk about with you. And I was thinking as I was listening to Louise that you are the rescuer of rescuers. Anyone who knew my father knew that he had a very ambivalent relationship to history. On the one hand, he ridiculed those who sat in the archives without a direction and without a message, learning history just for history's sake. On the other hand, he knew in the bottom of his heart that the day that the last document is lost in the dustbins of archives is the day when his story becomes lost forever, when the story of his troubled relationship with the Jews loses any chance of retelling and learning. And this troubled him deeply because of his love for his people and his deep, urgent belief that we must learn from our past and from our mistakes. And because what is Judaism all about, if not telling our stories, adopting them for our times, and extracting contemporary morals and values? That's my father's legacy, or part of my father's legacy, the need to retell his story, but even more importantly, the need to impart the moral, the value, the understanding from his stories. This is not a simple task. It's not evident. How do we learn from the past? How do we as collectives learn from the past? How does a nation transmit its values? How are lessons learned over time? How is memory transported from generation to generation? I was thinking of all of this when, short of a month ago, I read a long article in the Israeli press about a group of refugees from the Darfur region in the Sudan who are sitting in an Israeli prison awaiting deportation. They, a group of young men who managed to escape the nightmare of genocide raging in Darfur, many of whose families were slaughtered and whose women and daughters were raped before their eyes. These young men who escaped to Egypt and then, following abuse, surveillance, and harassment, decided to cross the border in Sinai into Israel. These young men are awaiting deportation back to Egypt, or perhaps even back to Darfur, in an Israeli jail. Now, this was reported, and it was also duly criticized. The proper response was heard everywhere. How, in God's name, could a nation so well educated in genocide, so well educated in deportation and closed gates, how could such a nation be so callous, be so numb to the pain which they themselves experienced not so long ago? Have we not learned anything? How, indeed? So how are lessons learned? History in and of itself teaches us nothing. Educators teach us, teachers, historians, intellectuals, writers, painters, who gather up history and through a meticulous process of distillation extract the values worthy of memory. Sadly and apparently, we have not learned the proper lesson. We have learned about anti-Semitism, we have learned about technologies of killing, about the crematorium and the death marches. We have learned about being a pariah, and we have learned the high value of self-defense. We have learned the value in the machine gun, the tank, the army, the sovereign state, the banality of citizenship. But what have these to do with empathy? What have these to do with generosity, with kindness? Not much. Sadly and apparently, the models who could teach us about kindness, empathy, and generosity have been forgotten. Israel is not truly interested in its own heroes. And heroes there were: Raoul Wallenberg, Hillel Kook, Rabbi Weissmandl, Ziva Sternbuch, Karl Lutz, Shukihara, and the list continues and is long and glorious. But apparently Israel is not really interested in the heroes, much as it is not really interested in the survivors. Because our children do not properly learn about these magnificent people, these unsung heroes who risked their livelihood and their lives for others, who barred the trains with their own bodies, who negotiated with Nazis, who devised magical and mysterious stories about rich Swiss Jews, who yelled to the heavens and knocked down doors in the halls of Congress. Indeed, the Holocaust revealed a world of extremes, of horror and evil unknown to mankind, but of valor and courage and generosity which knew no bounds. My father, Hillel Kook, at the age of 27, shook heaven and earth and succeeded in publicizing the atrocities and making the killing of a Jew worthy of front-page news. He performed unbelievable feats. He splattered the word Jew all over the New York Times. He produced song and theater about the killing of innocent children and women. He wined and dined people about mass graves in the Ukraine. He small-talked his way around black smoke billowing above unknown villages in eastern Poland. And finally, he convinced Roosevelt to do something about the Jews. Too little, perhaps, too late, probably, but something. An official agency that was responsible for sending Raoul Wallenberg to Budapest and indirectly saving approximately 200,000 Jews. Empathy, kindness, and generosity are lessons. We teach our children to share their toys, to wait for others, and to worry when someone is sad by providing them with role models, by sharing our toys with them, by waiting for them, and by worrying for them, by celebrating kindness and by rewarding it. Hillel Kook, Raoul Wallenberg, Rabbi Weissmandl, what a glorious celebration of kindness, empathy, and brilliance. What better role models for our children? The State Department said, invite a family and you will get a clan. Invite a clan and you will get a village. You open the gates for one and you will expect a flood. The State Department said, they are citizens of enemy countries. They might be spies. They have families in Germany and Romania and Poland. So my father said, save them first and investigate later. Save them and intern them. Save them there by bombing the camps. And my father said, this is not a Jewish problem. This is a humanitarian problem. It is not my problem. It is our problem. So to get back to my story about Darfur, most probably the government official in Misrad HaPnim had never heard of Hillel Kook and never learned about the brilliant means and mechanisms he developed to elude the State Department official arguments. He never learned about the wining and dining and about the pageants and the ads and the lobbying. He never learned about those models of valor and morality. He never learned about celebrating kindness and empathy. And so he said, invite a family and you will get a clan. Invite a clan and you will get a village. Open the gates to one and you will get a flood. They have family in enemy territory. They might be spies. Perhaps if he had learned about Hillel Kook, perhaps he would have thought of the answer before he stated the excuse. Perhaps he would have thought differently. Perhaps. This for me is the message of the International Rescuers' Day. It is about humanity. It is about celebrating glorious people and setting them as role models for our children. And I hope that in this day and in others to come, perhaps next time we have refugees at our door, we will know what to say to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kook.